Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest and newest episode of Neighborhood Watch, starring your friendly neighborhood Dr. K.
Hello!
And me, Peter, also a doctor of I don't know what, but we'll find out in this episode.
Horrorology.
Horrorology! That's it.
How are we doing this afternoon?
Wow.
Late afternoon at 2 in the morning here.
Yes.
Pete?
I'm great. I'm happy that we're doing this again. This is the first time that we have watched a movie and then immediately ran up to the Neighborhood Watch drop zone,
Yes.
home base, and just started recording. And I think it's a good idea. It's fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like super fresh. And it's cool because we're doing a huge double whammy today. You're getting hit with not just one Hellraiser, but with the first two, which is only apropos because they're so closely connected in the story, right? I mean, it's telling one story there.
Yeah, and they're the best ones too.
Yeah.
Really, almost the only ones worth talking about. Although 3 has its moments too.
Yeah, I
doesn't
think
it?
I think 3 and 4
They're still
tell the
okay.
whole bigger story that Clive Barker was trying to get at. You know, that was the 4 movies he was involved in the series.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, for all the grief that 4 gets for being Hellraiser in space, some of which it deserves, it is trying to tell you the bigger story of why we have the box, right?
Right.
But I really like 3. I remember being in junior high when 3 came out, and I was super stoked on it. And as we were saying with the Motorhead doing the title song,
Yeah.
and
That's when the primo days of horror, man.
yes,
It's just
man,
everything
and the
was
CD
hitting.
guy. That's the one you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's got the dude who shoots CDs out of his mouth,
Yes.
and the flamethrower guy
Yeah.
who shoots out flames.
You know,
man.
that reminds me. One thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about it when we were watching, but this movie is important too. I mean, both of these movies, the Hellraiser franchise, is important because it's also another subculture of the horror genre, really. You know?
Definitely.
Although, you know, we could go back and say Nightmare on Elm Street was like a move in the fantasy horror direction.
Sure.
Hellraiser firmly goes in that direction.
Right.
And it's so cool because it's got the religious trappings.
Right.
But it's really fantasy. I mean, this is
time.
pure fantasy.
Oh, big
right?
time. Yeah.
This is world building.
Yeah.
And this is like,
Yep.
you know, you have entire, you know, races of creatures and things.
Right. And I mean the Leviathan
Yes.
in the second movie,
Yep.
and getting to actually see the labyrinth that is the hell, right? The hell that you go to when they And who knows? Is it because they capture you and bring you there, or is it just if you die and you go to hell, is this where you're going? I think it's cool that it's so ambiguous.
Yeah.
They don't really come quite right out and tell you. Other than we know that this Leviathan thing is this huge, imminent,
Dark
Lovecraftian
force.
evil thing. It's this spinning obelisk with the black spires coming out of it. And, oh man,
That's
so cool.
so great. You're totally right, man. It's so Lovecraftian too.
Yeah.
And that was even, I think, you know, at least for us, like that was before we even knew what Lovecraft was.
Right.
You know?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
I mean, Lovecraft is such a thing in pop culture now, but back then it was like,
oh man, no way.
Yeah.
No way. But, I mean, you knew probably at that age who Edgar Allan Poe was, but not Lovecraft.
No.
I mean,
He wasn't mainstream.
there's really, you know, I think the Cthulhu mythos and all of it, just the whole thing, really started to gain steam after that.
Yeah.
You know, where just kind of everybody knows about it now, or at least they're aware of the things within it, whether or not you know that it's Lovecraftian.
But you know what's weird about that though is I'm trying to think like what made Lovecraft so popular lately in the last few years.
I don't know.
Right?
Cthulhu. I mean, I think the Cthulhu thing took off in a way that zombies did.
Yeah.
Parallel to it, or at a different time, but it seems that was more recent. Where you know, I mean, my wife bought me a Cthulhu Christmas ornament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you know that
it's
culture is totally engaged.
Yep, it's totally mainstream now.
Because if you'd had that when we were kids, people would be like, "What what is that?"
Yeah, you're right.
That's weird. What are you even talking about?
People
A
latched
Cthulhu?
on to Cthulhu.
Yeah.
But I still don't really know what was the vehicle that brought Cthulhu to everybody's
I don't know.
doorstep, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
There's no really popular Lovecraft movie.
No, maybe gaming. Do you think maybe it's been that gaming has really started to become more prevalent and there were a lot of board games and stuff.
Yes.
That were starting to like incorporate the mythos into kind of RPG type stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Maybe one of our listeners will tell us exactly.
Tell us, please.
Lovecraft.
Comment. Enlighten us.
Yeah, tell us what, because we love Lovecraft, but we
do.
But everybody kind of knows who Cthulhu is, but then nobody could really be like, oh, my favorite Lovecraft story is blah 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 blah.
Right.
Like nobody knows that.
But we can.
Yeah, but we can. But that's because we're crazy horror fanatics. Though.
I know, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
But yet everybody knows Cthulhu. It's strange.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they have like stuffed animal Cthulhu.
They do. I mean, really.
They're awesome.
Yeah. I think it's because everybody right now is so dialed into politics and everyone's so afraid of the the idea of a mastermind pulling our strings kind of thing, and the political environment is so tense.
The deep old ones.
Yes, it must be the deep ancient ones.
Yes. That's true. It is true.
From Innsmouth.
Yep.
What it's Innsmouth, right?
Yeah.
The town of Innsmouth. Don't ever go there.
No.
Don't wreck your boat off the coast and meet the subaquatic fish people.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. But Clive Barker, man, he was soaking that stuff up, man. He
big time.
Big
time. And it's great too, because when we were watching it, we talked about how there's been so much borrowing of Hellraiser, either directly or indirectly. But we just
spot it.
Oh, dude, the Spawn stuff is so over the top now when you take the two into consideration, right? Yeah. I think you said it first, but I mean, there are scenes in there where you just push pause and it's like, yeah, that's Spawn. Yeah, that's exactly Spawn right there.
That's a Spawn cover right there, or that's a panel from Spawn, right?
The chains, the capes, the blood, the guts,
the leather,
the S&M, the bondage.
The smile is even too, like the chatter faces.
Yes. Yeah, you can see between Violator and how all of these things just kind of got sussed out, and
McFarlane owes a couple of checks to Clive Barker.
Definitely. Yeah. And to Faust. And to
Faust too. That's a great point. That's a great point. And that movie of Faust is actually not too bad, right?
It's not terrible. I think the biggest criticism it gets is that it's not the comic, but you can't make a triple X-rated movie that anyone would see.
Right.
So I don't know that I necessarily agree with those criticisms. I think it was good, and I would actually say I think I liked Faust better than the Spawn movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The Spawn movie was just shackled.
It
was
garbage.
It was kind of it was just crap.
Yeah.
It's too bad because it had Nicole Williamson in it, who was like one of my all-time favorite Merlins.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
He was what's the wizard's name?
Oh yeah, Castiglio, and
yes,
that name.
That name, yes. He's that wizard, and then he was also Merlin.
Cagliostro.
Cagliostro, that's it. Yes. Yeah. And he was Merlin in John Borman's masterpiece. Oh, masterpiece Excalibur.
Yeah. Awesome.
I can't say enough good things about, particularly that guy who cries that is also in Zardoz. But anyway, we digress.
Yes. Let's go back to Clive Barker.
Barker. Seen all of the wonderful things in these two movies. So let's start with the first one.
Yeah.
And then because we watched the first Hellraiser.
Quite a while
I guess
ago.
It was like 4 or 5. 3 weeks
ago.
You went to Hong Kong.
Yes.
And it was before that.
I went to escape the authorities.
Yes.
And it was before that we watched Hellraiser at my place.
Yes, exactly. So that was probably 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
Might have been 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
And so we're gonna have to rattle our heads a little bit to get the memories of that one back. But the second one did do a good job of kind of recapping.
Oh, big time! Too. There's so many. There's just so many cutscenes.
On
in
the last episode of Hellraiser, look at this. Yeah, it was doing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Which was good though.
It actually is good. Yeah.
Especially because the story of Hellraiser is pretty confusing.
Oh man. Yeah.
So you kind of need like a recapper. Even if we had just watched it directly right before part 2, we would still need something to be like, can somebody kind of summarize this for us?
Right.
Because I'm not really sure what we just watched.
Yes.
In a good way, though. You know?
Oh, man. Right. And so we watched the special, the little featurette at the end of part 2. Yeah. And I forget who it was. It was either Adkins or Clive Barker, but or one of them, or Tony Randall, said, you know, it's like, hey, we don't... You know, the first movie, we didn't explain a lot of things. Yeah. They just show it to you. Yeah. And that's freaking... Oh, yeah, because he was saying the problem with making the sequel is in the first one, you can just raise a bunch of questions. Yeah. And that's awesome. But then in the sequel, you've got to answer questions. Yeah. And that's a much more daunting task as a filmmaker. Right?
Yep. That's very true.
Because people are like, oh, yeah, we already know. And we're always wondering about all of these things. What are you gonna tell us now? And you can't keep keep baiting people.
Well, and I mean, Pinhead is just such a visually striking character too. Man, right. That it's like immediately you see Pinhead, you know, and it's like seeing a gorgeous woman at the bar, and you're just like, I want to know more about her, you know. Right. It's like everybody's like, I want to know more about Pinhead. Yeah. You know? Yep. And so like immediately, you have all these questions that need to be answered, you know. Right. But it's the catch-22 because that's why he's so cool too. Exactly. He's so mysterious.
That's right. That's right. So, it's kind of like you don't want to. We really don't want to know it all because if you do, then you're like, oh, well, I know that guy's story.
Yeah. Exactly.
Getting back to Todd McFarlane, that's how you get to issue 300 of Spawn. Is you just keep chasing that. You just don't actually tell anything. Sorry, that's a dig, but you deserve it, Todd.
It is true though, man. Come on.
How much melodrama can we take? Not
really,
that much.
Really. Please stop.
Please stop. Please stop.
But yeah, I think Hellraiser. So, what's funny too is really you don't really see Pinhead either till for the last 3/4 of the movie. Really, right?
Yeah.
Which you know I think a lot of people forget because Pinhead is such a horror icon now. You know, I mean he's right up there with Jason and Mike Myers and you know,
and like in the featurette, Freddy. Like they pointed out, which you and I both intuitively knew, and we're like, oh shit, yeah, he's so different from most of the other main movie monsters in that he's elegant, and he's extremely well spoken, but he's this horrific, terrible demon, which gives him this like a two-sided, just creepy, awesome monsterness.
I know.
He's definitely not one-dimensional like so many monsters are, right? It's kind of like, what's the new thing? But then you're trying to say, what's that new one thing? What's the new one thing that we can make a cool monster out of? Right. Whereas he really mixes the two. Where he's super, he creeps you out so much because he's massively intelligent. But yet he's horrifically, you know.
You hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, I think
tear you to bits and everything else.
If you put him in a room with the other guys like Freddy and Jason and stuff, like they would all kind of like inch away from him, I think, you know, because he's that freaky, you know. He's like
you can't
that.
stand on that side of the room. Yeah. Like, can you just see him and Leatherface having a conversation?
That would be cool. I would see that movie.
That would be great.
But he's got so much gravitas, right? And just so much presence and charisma and power too. And I think, you know, kudos to Clive Barker for creating a character like that because that's really hard to do that, right?
Well, and the fact that it's a pantheon, he's one of the Cenobites, right? Which is great too because the other Cenobites who hardly have, I mean, the only one who has lines is the female Cenobite. But in these two movies, you've got to have all four of them because they're fantastic, right? You know, Chatterhead and the pig dude are just cool to look at.
They're a great
group.
And
then, oh man, yeah, it's like you're you know, there's not just one terrible guy. There's a whole bunch of them.
It's a mega group.
Yeah, and then in part 2 when we get Dr. Chenard with his floating phallic stem.
He really became my favorite. But we're jumping ahead.
We are okay. Back to part 1. Yeah, we have to go back to part 1. We haven't even talked about Uncle Frank yet.
No, I know
the genius of Uncle Frank.
I know. And so the original movie kind of it opens with like, you know, like they're in somewhere in like Egypt or something, right?
Yeah.
Is that where it was? Yeah. And then, you know, that's where you kind of find out about the box and everything, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And then you get introduced to the house
Yes.
And they're moving into the house, and it's not Frank, but it's the other guy.
It's the dad.
It's the dad.
The other dad.
And Julia.
Yes, Julia.
And Julia, we have to have a moment here with Julia, because I think
we do.
She does a great job.
Oh man, dude.
We have to tip of the hat to her.
Yeah. You can't be critical of her because she's the villain, right? And that's the easy thing to do here because she's such a good villain.
She really is.
The actress, whose name is Julia. Claire Higgins.
Yeah.
Is just fantastic, and I would say, man, she's great in both movies.
She really is.
We're introduced to her in the first movie, and we really get to see who she is, but her character really comes out in the second film.
Yeah. And she did a great job of like kind of, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about her, because I remember when we were watching the first one, I thought like, it's hard to tell like how old is this woman.
I know, right?
Because she could be in like her early 30s or something, but she kind of dresses and she kind of has this presence of like an older woman.
Right. But then, such an 80s thing, right? Yeah, where it's all about deception and
totally, and it's the seductress kind of thing. And then she really gets down and dirty with Uncle Frank there and stuff.
Old Uncle Frank.
Yeah. And I think that's also kind of a cool contrast they play with, because it's like it's England, it's Margaret Thatcher's England,
right?
Like
yes,
men and women are supposed to behave in a certain way.
Don't underestimate that, you millennials. Right. It's true. It really was that way. Yeah.
But then it's like unbutton the collar and like whoa, there's a whole bunch of a nastiness under there.
Yep.
Yeah, she did a great job.
And that really speaks to that whole S&M culture in general, right? Which was very secretive. Oh, man. You didn't tell anybody outside of your group of freaking weirdos who you were into it with. It was all about that, like, you look one way, but you act another way kind of thing. Yeah.
And that's really when it was really, I think.
Oh, it was cranked. Yep. Yeah, it was absolutely cranked.
Bubbling under the surface everywhere, right?
Yeah. For great insight into that, watch American Psycho.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sheesh. Right. I mean, that's the.
And go back to our earlier episode where we talked about From Beyond.
Yes.
There's a lot of S&M.
Oh my goodness. Oh yes. Yeah. How would yeah. You're right. Just go watch our From Beyond episode, people.
Yeah. You'll get a lot of S&M. You'll get the whole history of S&M there.
Yes.
But yeah, it's interesting how that kind of informs this movie and a lot of things in the 80s really.
Oh man, really, yeah,
was connected with S&M and like that whole kind of thing of like like you just said, the this is what you present to the world, and then this is who you really are behind closed doors. And and the music videos were like that too.
Oh
they played with
man, all the innuendo, just reeking of innuendo. Yep.
So it's fun.
Yep. Okay, so the dad's name is Larry, which we would never know because they never say his name. No. You only ever hear him referred to by Kirsty as Dad. Daddy. Daddy, Daddy. Right.
Daddy. And I don't know why she loved him so much either. He was kind of a dick.
He was kind of a douche.
Yeah, he really was.
Yeah.
No real redeeming qualities.
Nothing against Andrew Robinson, which is cool because he does end up playing Frank. Once Frank puts his skin on, right? That's right. And so that's pretty cool because he kind of plays both the good dad and the bad dad.
And I love. I mean, I think story wise, I really like the first one.
Yeah.
Just because it's like this constant like just revealing things to you.
Yes,
and you're just like, what's going on here?
That's
like,
so true.
He gets cut in the hand, the blood drips on the ground, and then like there's just a weird thing growing out of the ground, and then you're piecing it all together too. You're like, I guess that's Uncle Frank then,
right? When it pops out and goes,
yeah, that's such a great. Like you said somebody's squeezing a kitten back there or something. That is the sound. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, it's a little spinal nerve ending on the end of his neck.
Incredible special effects work.
Oh yeah,
incredible.
Man. Just for having no money too, and it's just so disgusting. Oh. Yeah, so disturbing.
Just makes you nauseous.
They really knew, like, okay, let's just get maggots and worms and put it on everything. Oh man,
and cockroaches.
Oh gosh,
any kind of fluid we can get, we'll just slather it everywhere.
Yeah, I mean the brilliance of practical effect, right? I mean you would tell some team animators now. Okay, we need a few hundred of these bugs and a bunch of squirming stuff, and how long is it going to take to do this shot? Yeah. When back then it was like, no, just get some cockroaches and get some maggots and get some worms,
dump them on there
and throw them on there. Yeah.
Start rolling.
And we'll do some shots, right? And we'll just keep doing that. Come on, Hollywood, get back to the old school way.
Yeah, there's just some incredible shots there.
Yeah.
And Uncle Frank, you just see him slowly getting pieced together.
Yeah.
And you start finding out that he had this affair with Julia. And it's a solid movie. It's fun.
It's really good.
And we got to give kudos to is it Ashley Lawrence?
Yes, you got it.
She was really good.
Yep.
We especially in the second one, we started saying like she really looks like Winona Ryder.
Yeah, right.
With big shoulder pads.
Yes. Right. Heather's Winona Ryder perfectly, right?
Yes.
I mean, that, yeah.
The
hair and the those just weird 80s suit jackets that girls would wear.
And
stylistically,
it's like that great like the eyeshadow under the eyes too. Like her eyes look like sunken,
right?
But like somehow it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I don't know how she does that.
Yeah. Going for the tired look, but it was like the sexy look.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice. So the first one, I think we don't have anything bad to say about it, do we?
I don't think so. I think it's just there are differences between the first and the second one, and they're all production differences. Mm-hmm. And I want to be very clear. I don't think that that's anything wrong with the first one. I would never jump and say, oh, well, the second one is much cleaner and it's got a much higher production value, especially with things like lighting. The first one suffers maybe a little bit, where you've got a lot of really dark shots and things. Not to say it doesn't look grainy, but it definitely looks darker and rougher, and closer to just kind of like low budget British film.
That's
right?
it exactly. It's that kind of like low budget young ones.
Exactly.
Red Dwarf.
Yeah. Yep.
Like they're using all the same film stock.
That's
and everything.
Right.
And
Yep. But that's part of what makes it awesome too.
Yeah.
But you can definitely tell going from the first one to the second one. Yeah. Even in the flashback stuff, they cleaned all that up. I'm sure that they went back in and reprocessed everything so that it didn't look so jarring when they're jumping back and forth between the flashbacks. But
yes,
I really like that about the first one. There's that it's kind of different in the way that Texas Chainsaw Massacre did it, but it wants that dirtiness, right? There's some of it's kind of glamorous too, especially with the lighting and the smoke and everything. They're definitely going for that more, kind of scare you in a glammy kind of way.
Definitely, and that whole room where Uncle Frank comes back to life into, like that's such a gross, grimy room.
Man, it's we talked about that a lot when we watched it.
Yeah.
How important. So the house is a character, right? The house definitely is a character, but that room, because every other room is nice.
Yeah.
They move into this dump, right? They fix every room except the room that Uncle Frank had been squatting in, and it gets filthier and filthier.
It's just foul
as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting grosser.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And that's just such a cool little thing to do in a movie, right? You're just like, this room is its own. Ugh.
And did they ever I remember we were talking about this too. Did they ever make it clear was this happening in England or was this happening in the States? It seemed
don't.
Yeah, and it seemed like they were trying to make it seem like it was maybe this is in Connecticut or something.
Right, exactly.
But there's no house that looks like that in Connecticut.
No. Right.
The house is 500 years old.
Right. Right.
It's just man.
Yeah.
And she's leading people up the stairs to get their life force sucked out. And
such a good premise, right? She goes and seduces these, especially I think it's the first guy who's just a total milksop, right? Just I've never done this before. I gotta pee.
Right.
And he's standing there in his underwear when she clubs him with the dang hammer. Oh, it's awesome. So foul.
Yeah.
And then he falls over and sees Frank crawling out with his legs don't work. Oh man, you see that and it's shocking.
It's that is something you don't want to see.
Yeah,
if you're that guy.
Oh man.
Which I think there's a nice parallel with that shot, and then the second one, where it's at the very end where the guy the mover's on and falls on the mattress, and then like this top half of his body gets sucked into the mattress,
sucked in,
and so then it's just his his torso and his legs hanging on the mattress there.
Yes,
and it's just a great shot of just the still of that, and we just both died laughing because it's just like. Here's legs laying on a mattress, and then you cut to the
as his buddy walks in, is like, "Oh shit!"
And his buddy's got like the big,
big
80s hair and the mustache.
Beard.
Yep. He's like, "What?"
Oh man.
Yeah. There's. I mean, that's what's beautiful about these movies is there's those little shots like that that are just so weird and strange and gross that you just gotta laugh because you're just like, I don't know what
when the cop opens the that door and the body falls forward and all the maggots dump out of its mouth, it's like blah. It's just and then he goes and pukes, he's like yeah, you're like, oh, that's yep.
He just, I mean, that's we were talking about that. The genius of Clive Barker is he takes these images and then he just torques them up.
Oh man, right.
He just he's like, how much can you take?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we were talking about that, the real genius of using all of this Catholic imagery, things that should otherwise be safe.
Yeah.
And he just starts bending them and bending, and then it's like, well, how much can you take?
Yeah.
But he doesn't do it in a way, because it's so easy to fail at that. If you just like go over the top and you're just like, oh, well, he does it in just kind of the right, it's a ratcheting way, right? It's just like, good, and just ups it, and you're like, oh, man, dude.
And you have to, and you have to hand it to him too, because he really is using a lot of the surrealists playbook too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, man, absolutely.
So Dr. Chenard, right, when he's got the penis head and he's floating around with the wires on his face, and then those like snake things come out of his hands, right?
Yeah.
And one of them has a flower, and then one of them has like a finger come in. It's like, come here.
Yeah.
And you're just like, why?
Right.
And I mean, it's just full of weird stuff like that.
Oh, it is. Chenard. Oh man, dude, that.
I mean, and
isn't it great that he doesn't turn into the Cenobite monster Chenard until really the very end, dang near the end of the film, of the second film, and he is so awesome. I mean, it's like and it's funny because that means that we were taking for granted the original 4 Cenobites, and they're like, we're gonna up this shit up, right? And he's got open smiley face palms that shoot out these these like morphing stock things. It's just so bizarre,
and they're all stop motion animation. That's the perfect choice,
and really good too. I mean, I remember as a kid being like, oh, okay, you could always tell, right? Just like we can always tell when it's CG now. But it was done in a really artsy way. Like you said, a very surrealistic way. So that it kind of tries to draw you into the whole, everything is so fucking weird. That's not very much of a stretch.
You buy it. Buy it. You're like, okay. Yeah. That's why if there was a Dr. Chenard demon, that's how he would act.
Right.
And going into the second one, I think because actually it's fun to talk. The reason why we're doing this podcast with both part 1 and part 2, because they really are like chapter 1 and chapter 2 the same thing. They really lead into each other. They got the same cast.
Yes.
Clive Barker he did the directing on the first one, but he executive produced the second one. So which means he was kind of backseat directing.
And Peter Atkins was there for both as the writer. Yep.
So they really feel like the same movie, really.
Big time. And that's not to do a discredit to the first one, but we just wanted more to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Because there are more cool, awesome creatures.
Yeah, and one thing I really like in the second one is all that inside of the box world.
Oh man, it's so cool. Yeah.
Those matte paintings of the labyrinth.
Yes.
Just incredible.
Right.
Just so cool.
Right.
And so English too.
Really, and so dang creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like what we were joking, what Jim Henson was getting at with the Labyrinth. This is like adult, horrible, scary version of it. Yeah,
definitely.
And you just imagine like them running around in this like it's just insanity. It's hell, right? I mean, there's freaking Cenobites in there.
Right. Like Labyrinth had that little bit of that flavor, of like being lost in the hallways and stuff. But like this is like nightmarish.
Yeah, but it wasn't terrifying.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
You're just like, whoa, she needs to get out of here.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just love all that stuff. I wish they would have done more of that stuff in the sequels.
Sure, me too. Because I think everybody does.
Yeah,
everybody does.
Like, that was
the thing
really
is that would have cost too much money. I think after the fourth one, they were so bereft of money that it all just became into those episodic, here we are in some city, and then there's going to be a box, and we'll see Pinhead. Will be the only Cenobite we ever see. Yeah. It'll only be in the last 10 minutes. Yep. And over and just over and over.
Yeah. Whereas that world there's so much potential there.
Right.
And I guess, you kind of get a little bit of the taste of it when you go into Nightbreed and stuff, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that's big really time. Kind of exploring that kind of world, right?
Big time. Yep.
Yeah. But here it's like, like the clouds going in the sky constantly, and it's just I love that. It gets back to that era that we love of special effects.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Where it's like there's so much practical stuff and so much in-camera stuff that it's just really there's some kind of realism about it, and
totally.
And I like it, I really like it.
Yeah, and the great, very, very, very MTV environments, right?
Yes.
Even some of the shooting, we were joked about, kind of, you can see where the freaking Metallica guys were like, okay, we're going to do this video called Unforgiven. Right. Make it look like Hellraiser 2. Go. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing when you're seeing Hellraiser become Pinhead become Pinhead, when they're pounding the nails into his skull and stuff. That was very Metallica.
Oh, man, totally. Yeah. Yeah,
the lighting and but we also have to talk about the composer Christopher Young.
Yes.
Too. He did a great score. This score was like so epic.
Yes, right. That's the thing. Yeah.
It was just grandiose.
Yeah. And talk about something so very different from other contemporary to it horror movies, which particularly since we just did Friday the Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a very poppy, very
minimal too,
very minimalistic,
synthesizer,
very, very what's going on in music right now kind of soundtrack. This is the exact opposite. This is like John Williams Goes to Hell
classical,
music.
Exactly.
Very orchestrated and massive. And super creepy. More like The Exorcist, I guess, right? With Tubular Bells.
Definitely. Yep. And it's cool. Like we were watching the featurette, and we learned that he put Morse code into those was it like African
Tibetan horn.
Tibetan horns.
Yep.
And he in Morse code in those horns he put like die, right?
It was God.
Die or God.
It was God. God. When we see the Leviathan.
Yes. So cool.
Genius.
That's that kind of stuff like that gets
so crafty.
That gets back to the stuff that we love, right? Like it's just it's like these hidden little Easter eggs that just add so much to it, and you can tell the people that make those decisions, they're real artists.
That's right.
They're really.
That's great.
That's something if you're just showing up to get paid, you don't have to do that.
No,
right. But that's doing it because you're passionate about it. You love it.
Right. And that's too probably a testament to the production of that film, of not being handicapped and not having someone sitting there either telling you to do something that's crap,
right,
or saying, "Oh no, I didn't come up with that idea. Fuck off, you can't put it in there."
right. Yeah, which happened a lot in the 80s.
Oh my goodness, all the cock sparring and everything. Yeah, no kidding. Not my idea. Fuck off.
Yep. Some Christian Bale, American Psycho executive is sitting there going, "Nope.
Right.
I'm in charge here.
That's right.
I'm the alpha dog."
That's right. Oh, you can do it if it was my idea. Oh, it was my idea. Let me tell you this idea I just stole from you. Right. Okay, go do that, and I'll take all the credit. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage in Vampire's Kiss.
You have to do it. And I would never let anyone else do it because you're lowest on the totem pole.
Oh, that poor woman. Oh.
And I'll fire you, Alva, if you do.
Yes.
I love that.
Poor Alva.
He's the worst boss ever.
Oh, man. Another movie, listeners. If you haven't seen Vampire's Kiss, you must.
I cannot talk about that movie enough.
It's on a level, man.
It's on a level.
It really is. It's really like
too late when he's chasing her down and bobbing his head. I just showed that to a friend of mine, and he just lost his lost his wits. He was like, "What is happening?
Right,
this is amazing."
Yeah, that whole film. What is happening? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his character has kind of a downward spiral, but it's just the whole premise, right? It's like he's primed.
Yeah.
To
it's cool. It's cool in the way that, like, you know, you never know. I mean, you know towards the end, but for a long time you're like, is he really turning into a vampire?
Yeah, right.
Or is this happening in his head?
Oh, sure.
And you're just constantly seeing both sides of it. Yeah. So you're just kind of like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Either way, he's totally crazy.
Right.
But
right.
He's either a crazy vampire or he's just a crazy person.
Yes. Yeah. It is great. They kind of trick you, you know, with the beautiful seductress neighbor that he's in, or the girl, you know, that he thinks is the vampire.
Jennifer Beals, right?
Jennifer. Yes. Yeah. And we kind of
yeah. She was great.
Yeah.
She was great. What I want to talk about a little bit here is just Clive Barker himself.
Yeah, the man.
Yeah, and you're a little bit more familiar with his work than I am. I mean, I read Thief of Always, which is awesome. Yep. And I think that book never gets enough credit because
it's serious.
Man, there's some things going on there. It's a little bit Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah,
it's a little bit Harry Potter even. You know,
right.
I feel like Harry Potter owes a lot to that book too. You know,
I would
like
agree.
Just the flavor of that, right? Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit of Wrinkle in Time too, kind of flavor.
Yep.
That's a really just brilliant book, Thief of Always. And really different for him too.
And you know, it was totally. Yeah. And I think, if I remember right, I think it did really good, like when it came out, but it had no longevity.
No,
like it was like a lot of books, right? That kind of come out and people were like, "Oh man, this is fantastic," but then it didn't ever get talked about or anything.
Right. Whereas, like, probably now, if that came out now, then they would make 7 sequels to it. Right.
Yeah. And I say that because I have a bunch of his books, and that's the one that gets quoted the most in critical review. That's like right at the very top of, like, you know, the writer of Thief of Always, Clive Barker, who blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But, I mean, I've read not all of his stuff, but a lot of it. I read all the books of Blood. Which are
and Cabal is Cabal part of that?
Cabal is the yes. Okay. So the last book of Blood is Cabal is the second half of that book.
Okay.
And Cabal is the premise of Nightbreed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Awesome.
Yes.
And that's another great. So he's particularly good. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Hellbound Heart, which is what Hellraiser, the first Hellraiser film, is based on, is a book that he wrote. He wrote the screenplay for the movie and directed the first film, right? Yeah. And it's almost like you're reading the script. He did it so well. Cool. He had his vision, was perfectly laid out. There's a very few small things that got tweaked. A couple of things that would have got him an X rating aren't in there. Yeah. And then like little rinky-dink stuff, like changing people's names and
minor stuff.
Little minor stuff, but really, really good. Cabal is the exact same way. You read Cabal and it's like watching Nightbreed. Yeah. You're just like, oh, dude, this is the film just falls out of the story, you know, and that's
great.
I love it.
Well, that's a testament to his writing ability.
That's right, like, and his vision.
Like he a lot of his things he writes movies in your head.
Right.
It's like
so true. Yep. So true.
So visual. And I always loved Lord of Illusions.
Yeah, too. I was gonna say. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
That's such a cool one.
Yep.
The movie. So I don't think I read the book actually.
I didn't. I've only seen the movie. Yeah.
Movie is so fun though.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
I love Scott Bakula to begin with because of Quantum Leap. But
me too. Yeah.
But
exactly.
To see him kind of do this like dark detective kind of thing, was so cool, and like that's just a fun movie. Isn't Famke Janssen in that movie too?
Oh, is she? I don't know. I haven't seen it in forever.
Confused, but
I was gonna say, so that character that he plays is in 3 or 4 different books of his.
Harry.
It is Harry.
Harry Dresden or something like that.
Yeah. So the sequel that he wrote to close the Hellraiser mythos, which is called Books of the Scarlet Letters.
Okay.
So he's only written 2 books on Hellraiser, which was The Hellbound Heart in 1986 And then just recently, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he did the sequel to it, which is the Scarlet Letters. And in the Scarlet Letters, he has the detective is the main character in that book to wrap up the Hellraiser mythos.
Cool.
And it's pretty good. It's pretty epic on the Hellraiser myth. And kind of like it really starts to explain what Pinhead's all about. And
what are the Cenobites all
about?
Yeah. What's the
and
Leviathan?
The religion. The fact it really gets into the fact that it's not just hell, but they're like a religious sect from hell.
That's cool.
And it gets into all that just really cool politicking and
awesome.
How does religion work and you know.
It's that whole world building of his version of hell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I highly recommend that, listeners. The Scarlet Letters is
fun stuff.
Brutal, but good. Hellbound Heart. You can read Hellbound Heart in
one sitting.
It's like 110 pages. Burn through it. It's like watching the movie. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and you know, he also Clive Barker is a pretty decent artist too.
Fantastic.
You know?
Yeah.
I think in the later years he's been doing a lot of paintings and stuff.
Right.
But back in the 80s and the 90s, I remember him doing like pen and ink comic book work. You know?
Absolutely.
And they made a lot of Hellraiser comics.
Oh, a ton for Epic. Marvel's Epic. Yep.
And he really had a distinct style. Like,
oh yeah.
You know, it's like you could tell, like, okay, that's Clive Barker. You know.
Yep.
Really, it just as disturbing as his movies and writing is.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, what is that? What am I looking at?
Right. So true.
Yeah, and he's such a king of, like, you know, that scene in the second movie. We kept talking about that, where, you know, there's like these like naked women forms underneath blankets on these glowing beds, and the beds just keep coming in of the wall and out, and they go back inside the wall
to torture Uncle Frank. Right, it's what he can't have.
right.
Yeah.
But it's just such a weird image, you know.
It's totally disturbing. Yeah, especially because when they first come out and they're like they're underlit white, and you can see that there's like a naked woman in there like squirming around and being all sensual, and then it goes away, right? Like you walk towards it and it goes away, and it does that a couple of times, but then it comes out and she's just totally covered in like pure offal, covered in blood and guts and everything, and then it goes away and it comes in and it goes away. You're like, why?
It's just some really disturbing things he's dealing with, and and he's like, here, people, you look at this. So good.
Yeah, really. I mean, I would have loved to sat in on just the production side of either of those films when they're just drawing everything out, you know, and it's like, okay, this scene will look like this. And just start putting all the ideas out there.
Yeah.
And then the execution of it.
Well, I think what's cool about him is you know, like, let's compare him to Dean Koontz for a second.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, we've ragged on Dean Koontz in the past.
Yes.
And all I'll say about Dean Koontz...
We're definitely more in the King camp than the Koontz camp. Yeah.
And all I'll say about Koontz is you know, I've read a couple of his books, and he's entertaining. You know, he's a decent, like, he's a decent writer. He's a craftsman, right?
Yep.
He can churn them out. Like, he's got these formulas, and just stick to them, and boom, bam, you know, they're out. And you know, I'm not so much into them, but like I can see how people can get into his stuff, right?
Totally.
It's almost like, you know, people that read Dungeons and Dragons books or romance novels.
Sure.
You know, like they want this just fluff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
just
that's fine.
easy money.
Yeah. But Clive Barker doesn't do that. You know,
true.
He is, for whatever reason,
he's the antithesis of that.
He's you know, and what's cool is he's articulate and everything. He's not like a raving lunatic.
Yeah.
But he's definitely tortured. He's got some things he's dealing with.
Right.
And he's throwing that out for you, and he's like, here, this is what I'm dealing with.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And
man, that is so true.
Right?
That is so true. He doesn't put out easy reading.
No, he's not just like, what should my next book be called?
Right.
This, and now I'm going to write a story about this thing that I just thought of.
Right.
He's just like, I keep seeing this, and I need to spit this out on the paper so you see it too.
Yeah.
And Stephen King, I think, is kind of like in between Dean Koontz and Clive Barker.
Sure.
Don't you think?
Sure.
he has moments where you feel like he's a real artist.
Oh
he's
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And he actually is dealing with some things, and that's interesting.
Right.
Then you have other books though where you're just like, this is a total formula.
Right.
like I felt that with his book called Cell.
Oh, I didn't read it. Nope.
So that's when I kind of gave up on Stephen King for a long while. I started to read him a little bit lately, but Cell was just awful.
Oh,
it was like
too bad. Yeah.
It was like he was like, you know what? I need to pay for that other house.
Yeah.
Stand was pretty popular. I'm gonna try to do the Stand, but I'm gonna try to do that in like 400 pages.
Right.
And let's make everybody zombies. But and then I really like Eddie from Dark Tower, so I'll make him again, and I'll kind of do all my characters from Dark Tower, and you know what I mean. It was it was like
I do know.
It was like seeing one of your favorite bands being like, "We're gonna record a new album," and then they just kind of rehash all their old shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's like it kind of reminds me of the good stuff you used to do, but it's not good.
It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
that.
like you should be playing in a casino now. Like this is not good anymore.
Right. Oh man.
Just stick to the hits.
Yep.
That's what it felt like with Cell. So that's a long way of saying like, yeah, he writes like Dean Koontz sometimes.
Yep. No, I dig it.
Where Clive Barker, love him or hate him, man, he's never gonna do that to you.
I got to tell you, I told you this before, but I'll tell our listeners.
Yeah.
Like for how much I love horror, I'm not a person who actually likes being scared.
Yeah.
I don't like the part where where you have a hard time going to sleep afterwards, right? And so I don't think I don't generally get that way anyway. I'm not very squeamish.
Yeah.
I love the taboo nature of horror, and I like the idea of horror.
Mm-hmm.
I really love being scared, but not on a visceral level, probably.
Yeah.
And I will say there were a couple of times when I was reading Clive Barker where I was disturbed.
Yeah.
That seriously disturbed me.
Right.
It's when you talk to people who have seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre and they're like, I couldn't. It freaked me out.
Yeah.
I was fucked up afterwards,
yeah.
right? Or whatever movie. I picked that one because I think that's one where people really did.
They have a visceral
They were like,
response
it was.
Yeah.
But he's got a couple, man.
Yeah.
When I was really binging on him,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is fuck, dude, because he can just get his little meat hooks into you.
Yeah.
And, he gets you thinking down certain ways. And then he's so good at setting the stage. And then when he does the reveal, it's not what you're anticipating.
Yeah.
And to me, that can really get you, right?
It can mess with you.
When you're like, and then here it is. And you're like, fuck. Oh.
You're right.
Zah.
Yeah, you're right. He does.
And I think it's funny because there probably are people who would watch Hellraiser and that's how they feel about it. But I think we're such gluttons for punishment that
we're just laughing.
We're on Team Hellraiser, right?
Right. Like more. Give us more Dr. Chenard. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Chenard, man, like that.
Yeah,
that was such a great. I mean, you mentioned it briefly a little bit before, but it was such a great build up to that character.
Yes,
right?
it's a long build, right?
Because for a long
once you
time,
get him, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, he's awesome, and it's for a long time. I definitely was going what is this doctor's deal? Why is he so into bringing Julia back to life?
Right.
And what's motivating him to do all this weird shit? Is he just a weird creep?
Right.
But he seemed like such a proper English gentleman.
Yes.
But
with his Alan Rickman accent, as you keenly pointed out.
Yes, Dr. Takagi. It's like that English accent that's all in your nose.
All nose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho ho ho. He has that thing going on. Though.
Yes.
The Neil Gaiman thing too.
Yes.
Yep. But so it was good. It was a good build up of that character. You're just kind of what is he doing here? Why is he, and he's so attentive to Julia too. She's messing up his beautiful multi-million-dollar mansion there.
Right.
Putting her bloody handprint on the wall. And he walks in the room and then that's the other thing. She's standing in there like all dripping blood and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she waits until he's in the room to punch the mirror.
Yes.
You know? I thought that was kind of strange too. I was like, what a bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Oh yeah.
What a bitch move.
Colors.
Yeah. She's like, I'm gonna wait until he's here to break the mirror in front of him.
Yeah. So so this is my take. I think why he's so fascinated with her. She's like the thing that he wants. Yeah. And the box because the box weirdly doesn't have a huge part in this one like it does in the first one.
Yeah.
And in some of the subsequent ones where it's really focusing on the box being this object of desire and like, the desires, or there's whatever you want. The box is the vehicle for it. Yeah. But it seems like she is what he really wanted, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of this, and it's weird.
He wanted a skinless, dripping blood woman.
Interdimensional. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I think he was really fascinated with that whole other world kind of thing, and
which is his undoing, right? Like she says, she's like, you didn't bring me back; they sent me back to get you, kind of thing. Which I thought it's so great. It pushes him in the box.
So great.
Yeah.
I love that too. As he's going down, he's got all the wires wrapped around him, and then that thing goes into his mouth. And then he's just sitting there like choking on it, and it just like slowly goes down.
Oh, it's so disturbing,
so grossly disturbing and pathetic too. It's just great,
right?
But he spent a long time like putting that gauze around her and stuff too, and like making out with her and
right, kind of ritualistic
It was just he's a creepy guy, man.
Yep.
And then we need to talk a little bit about the Gelfling too.
Oh yes,
Imogen.
That's right. Yes.
Who was never in anything else?
No.
I found out.
Nope. Not a thing. I'm pretty sure like nothing.
Yeah, she was the little girl putting the puzzles together, and she became really central to the plot as we go.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because she's the puzzle solver.
She's the puzzle solver, and I think she owes a little bit to Carol Ann and Poltergeist.
Oh, definitely.
Don't you think?
Definitely.
Like they're kind of riding that wave a little bit.
Yeah.
Is she and interestingly, she's kind of like she's mute. She can't say anything, and she looks
until
like a
her
Gelfling.
First line, which is "Oh shit."
Yeah, that was good.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but she looks like a Gelfling too from Dark Crystal.
Yes,
and that's what got us
weirdly, very weirdly. Yeah,
that's what really got us thinking about Dark Crystal.
Yes.
Until then we just we kind of went off the rails because then we were watching them going through the labyrinth, and then we were saying like, "Turn back, Sarah." We were just picturing David Bowie jumping out from behind one of the corners,
and then seeing Leviathan and be like, "Oh shit, I'm out of here."
Turns into an owl, flies away.
Oh, man.
But then he should like sing something as he's flying away too, like just like that would be. Let's make that movie.
Let's make that. Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. But damn, man, Hellraiser, what a fun couple of movies those were. They're really interesting. I mean, here's what I think too is, again, like, I'm never scared by these movies.
Yeah.
But I've definitely felt nauseous a couple times.
Oh yeah, there are some moments in this one.
Some of the things are just really, like you said, foul.
And it's funny too because it's not. It's like there's that formula of doing the jump scare, and none of these are jump scares. No. They're kind of, but in the same way that the jump scare gets you, this is to gross you out.
Yeah,
right?
It's really, the jump scare is trying to grab you.
Yeah.
This grabs you and then holds your head still in front of it.
Look.
And like,
look at that.
You've got the Clockwork Orange thing in your eyes. And it's just like, it's just like, you can't look away. We're just going to keep showing you stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Oof,
man, so true.
They almost like own it. I can't think. There's a few movies that do that to that extent,
right?
Don't you think?
And do it well. Yeah, right.
Because usually most horror movies are like, they'll show you something gross, but it'll only be 1 or 2 seconds.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
But this is like, just put your face in it.
Oh man, like when the whole thing when what's the dudes when Shenard brings the dude and gives him the razor blade and the mattress
that scene. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Talk about over the top. I'm pretty sure they're like, okay, we're gonna break every rule ever established with this scene.
That really, if that didn't almost give them an X rating, I mean,
Yeah, right?
Like that was, and it's funny too because we were watching the featurette and then that actor's talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I get me old razor blade and I just cut myself up and
Cut my dick off.
cut my dick off and fell down on the and then Big Bob's your uncle. Oh, well done. Up, off to the pub. You know, and we're like, no, it didn't quite happen like that, sir. It was a lot more gross and disturbing than that.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Like we were saying earlier, like how many maggots do you want? How many maggots and worms?
And not to forget either that. So after he's like cutting himself up, and then Julia comes out of the mattress, which was just awesome. That's a great scene.
It's a great thing. Yeah, her reveal scene.
Yeah, her arms just shoot up and grab him,
and her face kind of comes peeping up.
And then for a few minutes, they're just like slimily flopping around on the ground, like chasing each other on their elbows and knees.
Yeah.
And then she finally catches up to him, and she shoves her hand, you know, the classic shove the hand in the back of the skull thing. Yeah. And then as he's deteriorating, he like pukes out orange Nerf slime.
Right.
You know? It's just,
his face is just all drawn and sucked off. It is nasty. Yeah.
It doesn't get much nastier than that.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, I think they were like, hey, we were on to something in the first film when Frank regenerates. Yeah. Let's do that better, right? And they did.
Keep it up.
I mean, her version of it is just. I mean, there's moments in that first one. Mm-hmm. I mean, particularly, we already talked about it, but in that first kill scene, when he still has like the little gimpy, undeveloped legs, and he's crawling around on his arms.
Right.
You watch that and you're like, oh, that's fucked.
I know it really is.
And a credit to that actor who was actually, it's the same guy, right? Yeah. So the actor who plays Skinless Uncle Frank is the actor who played the razor blade victim, the Julia victim in this film.
Yep, he's good. He is good. And
they both do a pretty fantastic job of.
Oh man. In the first one too, we also have to mention that there's that derelict hobo, right? Which we really thought was Clive Barker for a long time. It was like, that's got to be Clive Barker, but it wasn't.
Nope.
Supposedly, unless he was using a fake name, maybe.
Right. A handle.
But then, and then in the credits. So when you watch Hellraiser 2, watch the beginning credits because then it says and Clive Barker. Yeah. So they're like Clive Barker is in the movie. So we're watching for him. We never saw him though.
No.
We went on IMDb, couldn't find any record of him being in Hellraiser 2 at all.
Right.
So it's a really strange mystery. The only thing we can think of is maybe he played that derelict in the weird totem pole thing at the end. Yep. It's got to be, right?
Because that guy is not credited.
Right.
And so we're guessing either it was the same guy from the first movie
or it's Alan Moore.
It's Alan Moore.
That was the other thing we were thinking. So either it's one of those things.
I don't know if that guy had enough beard though, right?
No, but it was the 80s. So
that's true.
He's still working on it.
That's true. Yeah.
So who knows?
Maybe they just hid it under some latex.
Yeah, that's true. The movie magic.
Yes. Yep. Let us know. Alan, call us up. Tell us if you were in Hellraiser 2.
Yeah, we need to know this.
And we want to talk to you about comic books.
Yeah, we want to make a movie out of your properties called League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Hey!
We got a great new take.
All right. It'll have Sean Connery. Wait a minute.
It'll have a kickboxing ninja Captain Nemo. You're going to love it. Faithful to the source material, you got it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But that being said, it will be interesting to hear. I'm wondering if we'll hear his reaction to the latest Swamp Thing.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure it owes a lot to him.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I'm sure he has nothing to do with it.
Right.
But he might actually watch it in his weird little, inner sanctum somewhere in that little small hamlet in England.
Right.
So he'll sit on his pentagram and he'll watch an episode of Swamp Thing.
Yep.
That was very good.
Okay.
That was pretty good. I don't know if he talks like that, but he might. There's so much. I feel like there's so much we still need to address.
I know. The dude from Aliens is in part 2.
Kyle the doctor.
Yes.
Who you were tricking me with that because you're like, see if you recognize him. And then I was thinking, oh yeah, I recognize him with bigger hair. And you were like, no, but it has something to do with the hair. So
to Peter's credit, he got it right.
Yeah. Yeah. After we saw a close up, I was like, okay, we know who that is.
William Hope played the Dr. Kyle McRae, but more importantly, William Hope is Lieutenant Gorman in Aliens.
That classic of all movies.
Yep.
Yeah, he was good in this, and it was funny. He got killed off fairly soon. Too,
yeah, right.
He thought he was going to be
because he's so important early on, right? And he's got some great scenes when he first breaks into Chenard's and sees the resurrection scene. That shot of him like watching, and he's just like, oh.
Right. And then he comes in and he's just like, "You're. It's all true.
It's all true. You're right. Let's get the hell out of here." And she's like, "No, we're going there."
Yeah.
What?
He's like, "Let me get you an outfit with huge shoulder pads."
Yes.
Yeah. He was good. He was good.
He is really good.
They killed him off, and then we got to know more about the Gelfling girl.
Yes. Imogen.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, what else can we say? I'm just thinking more about that whole Hellraiser world, though, and that was cool too, where they all kind of became human again at the end.
Yeah. Oh,
cool.
I think it's great, right?
Yeah.
Because it puts them into perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really
well, when we're heard in the featurette afterwards, that the actor who plays Chatterhead got hooked in the mouth by one of the props by one of the gigantic hooks.
Yes.
He goes to scream, and the hook went directly into his mouth, into his palate. Yeah.
Ugh. That's tough.
But it didn't get on film because the camera operator hadn't panned up yet.
That's tough.
Right.
That would have been a great shot.
Yeah. Yep.
Man.
But yeah, it is really cool that you get to see, that these were actually people. Who turn into these awesome monsters.
Yeah. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, good job. So do you remember offhand anything about part 3? Like, where does this story go? Because I don't really remember at all. Sure. Like, what's the brief synopsis?
A little bit. I haven't watched it in a while. Let's see. So 3. Okay, so 3. The part that I remember the best from 3. Okay, so there's a club owner. I forget the dude's name. Part 3. Okay, so there's this dude who owns a club, and I forget how he gets a hold of the box.
So it wasn't the mover then. So the mover is at the end of the second one, where Clive Barker in the totem pole says, "What's your pleasure, sir?"
Yeah, so that thing's important. That spinning totem thing ends up being in the next 2 movies. It is that thing. That's what it is. Okay, the club owner buys a piece of art at an art gallery, at an art expedition, and it's that thing.
Oh, wow.
But it looks just like it's concrete. It doesn't have, it's not, obviously it doesn't have the face and everything on it, but it's got all this stuff on there.
Weird.
But it looks like a piece of art, and that's what he buys. And then that's how, I can't remember what they do. Maybe the box ends up and it animates that thing and it starts spinning. But,
so it's
part 3 is really the redemption of Pinhead's human character.
Okay.
So we get to see his whole background. It shows all the stuff from the war this movie was hinting to, right? We see the little bits of it when he's in the Quonset hut and he opened the box, and then we see him get get turned into Pinhead. But part 3 does all the flashback stuff of where you see him back in the war, and
it's World War I.
It's World War I. Yep. And he's in Africa, so he's down on the African front during the war. And I forget what he does anyway, how he ends up with the box. And so it's a big redemption story for him because the character in that is trying to bring him back to the good side. Very Darth Vader.
Yeah. There is good in you, Pinhead.
And but that does have, then that's got, because we're to take for granted that the Cenobites all died in this one, he gets a whole bunch of new guys, such as the CD guy and the flamethrower guy and the 2 twins who are security guards, and they get their faces wrapped together and they turn up to in like a 2-armed, 2-body looking weird looking thing with a face that's all squirreled together.
So cool. I mean, these characters, man, what would conventions be like without all these weird characters?
Man,
right? Like, I mean, just come on. Like, these guys are awesome.
And so much stuff to love.
Yeah. Oh, man. Indeed.
camera head Cenobite. That's right. There's the guy who's because the main chick is a reporter, and so she's got her cameraman as her sidekick until he gets turned into a Cenobite where his head is merged with his camera.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that until I read this. Yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff. But it's more like, we're seeing there's the evil part, there's the evil half that is the demonic possession part of Pinhead, but then there was the actual man, the actual person, and so the female main character is trying to create a divide between the demon part and the good part,
right?
Because hell, it's called Hell on Earth for a reason. Whatever gets opened, the Cenobites are able to come out and they're not controlled by the box anymore, so they're able just to walk around and burn down L.A. basically. Right. I think part of that might have been a little reaction to the L.A. riots because this came out right afterwards.
That makes
93.
Sense. That makes sense.
So L.A.'s on fire.
Yep.
Hellraiser. Motorhead's playing their background music in the street.
That's so cool.
With a giant boom camera.
Yes.
On a crane.
Awesome. Lemmy. Is it Lemmy?
Lemmy, yeah. Kilminster, yeah.
Yep. R.I.P.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude was something else. Holy shit.
Yeah. So, Dr. K, what's next? What's next for Neighborhood Watch? Because I'm looking over here and you've got all 5 Phantasm movies.
Yeah, man,
which really are begging to be talked about.
They are. For how much we talk about Coscarelli, that's really that's his thing.
His masterwork.
Yep.
And then we have Cronenberg, which we still haven't touched either.
Man, people, you gotta help us because we are sitting on scanners and Videodrome.
Well,
and The Fly.
Yes. Oh, man. Which I really need to see The Fly again, especially. It may have been since the 90s since I've seen The Fly.
Man.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So good. And then we also have Wormwood.
Wormwood, yeah.
Which is we always talk about, we got to do Wormwood next.
We do.
And then we don't do Wormwood.
So that's it. We're doing Wormwood next.
We're making a promise here.
Yep.
You better hold us to it.
So if this is episode 15, people, episode 16, we're going back into the world of zombies.
Yes.
But this time we're going down under, eh?
Yes, for a new kind of zombie.
Yes.
Yep. It's a next chapter in zombies, really.
It is. If you haven't seen Wormwood, people, you are missing out.
I'm still waiting for more Aussies to make more gas-fueled zombies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Motor breath, right?
Oh.
So good.
Incredible. So so we got a lot coming up.
Yep.
And we might come back and do another Clive Barker thing too. We still have Rawhead Rex to talk about too.
We do,
which was
awesome.
Is like
very high. Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Yep.
Such a low budget movie too.
Totally low budget.
It's just so gross.
It's so yes. We'll give any spoilers away.
Oh man,
or should we?
All I want to say is I remember watching it with my very good friend. We used to watch pretty much horror movies every Friday night, for a while. And he brought Rawhead Rex one time, and we were watching it, and we were dying laughing at some parts, And what was killing us was we're at one point we're like, you know what? This movie was made in like some small Irish town.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And
it was, yeah.
I guarantee,
all on location.
Yeah, I guarantee like everybody that was in that movie is still living in that town.
Right.
And they're like, they've got pictures in the bar there, of Rawhead Rex.
Of Rawhead Rex pissing on a priest.
Right.
Baptize me, or whatever he says.
It's great. I mean, that's. If there ever is a horror pilgrimage to make, you got to find that town.
We got to find that town in the town where American Werewolf in London was, with the freaking what is that little the pub where they're drinking? It's the wolf's blood or the
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
So.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Well, I think we've done about an hour or so here, have we?
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. I think we pretty much killed it. There wasn't a whole...
Yeah.
I think we touched on it all.
Yeah, I mean, let us know if there's anything else you wanted us to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll bring it up in another episode.
Most deaf.
Yeah.
And more Clive Barker. We're telling you, we got to do Nightbreed. We got to do, Rawhead Rex, Nightbreed.
Lord of Illusions.
Lord of Illusion. Yep.
There's just a ton of stuff to talk about, really.
Yep.
So, to be continued.
So it never ends. Our awesome, loyal, dear listeners.
Yes. We also have to talk about Highlander, too.
Oh, we do.
Which we haven't mentioned yet. So
that's right.
I'll do it now.
So we better, because we're pretty sure that the Highlander gets the quickening from when the Leviathan decides to change forms, and it does the...
what is that little thing called? Like a Tesseract or something? Or what is that? You know what I mean?
From the Avengers?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Yep. It's a Tesseract. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, that's when the quickening happens.
It is.
I know everything. I am everything. And then we see torso and legs slumped over on a mattress.
Yes.
That would be a great. We're gonna do that. We're gonna somehow cut that scene together with Highlander.
Yeah.
With
no one will get it, but us and our dear listeners. We will get it.
Hellraiser 2: The Quickening. It's gonna be a hit. It's gonna be a hit.
Yes.
The Renegade version. You remember that?
Oh yes.
Remember that? Remember
Lorenzo Lamas?
No. Go back. Okay, Dr. K, you need to remember this now, okay?
Okay.
Highlander 2.
Yes.
Not only is it called Highlander 2: The Quickening,
yes.
There's also a version called Highlander 2: The Quickening, the Renegade version.
What?
Which, as far as I can tell, is just maybe like 10 minutes longer or something.
Okay.
And it's there's nothing really like, oh God, they added this amazing scene. No, they just
add more crap.
They made a boring scene more boringer.
Yeah.
For the Renegade version.
Yeah.
And then they also have the director's cut, which is different from the Renegade version, which I think has a different ending. And then that one they really did cut up a lot, and they took out all that stuff about the time travel in the beginning and everything. They took that all out. So actually the director's cut.
The director's cut
might be the one to see.
Yeah, okay. Huh.
However, if you're a glutton for punishment, though, you need to see the original Highlander 2.
Oh, you do.
Because it's just so god-awful.
Oh, it's
awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so awful that it wrapped around and turned into good.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Until you get to part 3.
Oh, yeah.
Because then there's like a Mario Van Peebles.
Yes.
Which riding on skateboards, they're like, hey, remember those skateboards in Back to the Future? We're going to have those in Highlander the Future.
No. Highlander the Future.
Highlander,
the final dimension.
The final dimension, yes. A.k.a. Highlander in the future.
It would have been better to just call it Highlander in the Future.
Yes, it would have. Yeah. They should let us make it.
The sad thing about that, though, is that that's not even the worst Highlander movie.
I know, not.
3 is actually good compared to the ones that came afterwards.
Yeah. Then it went to the Lorenzo Lamas years. Was it Lorenzo Lamas?
No, he looked like
Adrian.
Adrian Paul.
Yeah. Adrian Paul.
He
has 2 first names.
I know.
What's up with that? Come on.
You're not a Highlander. But I still will never forget though from Highlander the TV series.
Yes.
When the bad
Which
guy,
was Lorenzo Lamas, right?
No, it was still Adrian Paul. It wasn't. Lorenzo Lamas had nothing to do with Highlander.
Oh, but he was in Highlander Renegade. Oh no, that was just Renegade.
Yeah, it was just in the Renegade.
Yeah, okay.
But the Renegade probably would have been better if there was Immortals somehow connected to it.
Yes.
But the best thing that ever came out of the Highlander the series was the first episode where the bad guy is basically like the Kurgan light. He's like diet the Kurgan, right?
Yes.
And he's fighting Lorenzo Lamas, right? Oh. And he calls him. Like towards the end of the show, it's like it was like a special huge episode too.
Yeah, right.
Christopher Lambert's in it and everything.
Yep.
But then they're like, we need to get to the end fight scene, and the writers couldn't figure out a way for them to like meet on this bridge.
No.
So he calls him
on the phone.
He calls and like talks to his girlfriend and is like, "Tell Highlander we'll meet at the bridge at 7 p.m. Be there." And then like hangs up,
Man.
He's like, "Oh God, I better come."
I better go right to the bridge.
Right. I mean, that was just talk about brilliant. We were just. I remember watching it with a group of friends, and we just couldn't stop laughing. He calls him. Yeah. He calls him.
Calls him on the phone.
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, you got to figure out how to get him there.
Yeah, no, I think what happened was the writer paychecks ran out, and the producers started writing.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. He calls him.
Calls him on the phone. Just do it.
Wait, couldn't they just like randomly run it? Nobody will believe if they randomly run into each other. He needs to like find his phone number.
Yes.
And call him.
Yes.
And leave a message.
And not even talk to him though. Talk to
Right,
his girlfriend.
talk to his girlfriend.
And have her tell him.
Is Highlander there? Is Highlander there, or should I just? Can you take a message for me?
Dude, are you looking for Adrian? No, Highlander.
Or Lorenzo Lamas. Either one, I'll talk to them, but not Christopher Lambert. He's done.
Oh, I talked to that guy. Oh man.
But and then the final thing we'll say is I remember watching. A good friend of mine brought over Highlander Endgame, I think.
Yes.
Is the last one.
Yeah.
That was the one where you have to say goodbye to Christopher Lambert,
Yes.
and they're passing the torch to Adrian Paul.
Yes.
And that was, forgive me if I have said this before, but that was the ultimate. That was the ultimate killing to the fans, where you're like, I love Highlander. I love the character of Connor McLeod.
Yeah.
And now we get 6 movies later. And I can't wait until you kill him off.
Yep. Yeah.
You're doing something wrong.
Yes.
If the fans are saying that,
That's right.
Please die. Please. You are so annoying. You
Yes.
need to die.
Please kill all of us.
Yeah. I hate Lorenzo Lamas, but I want Lorenzo Lamas to take over now. That's how bad I hate you in this movie.
Oh man.
So go watch all the Highlander movies, everybody.
Go watch them and then watch the animated Highlanders.
Yes. Which is good.
It is.
And we have mentioned that before.
Yes.
We have.
Yep.
But it's worth repeating.
Yeah.
That was actually good. You need to see that, man.
I know. I need to see it.
Yeah.
Because I was telling you that by the time Endgame, I was like, I can't take more Highlander.
I can't do it.
And you're like, no, it's good. It's good.
Oh man, yeah. So in a future episode, we'll do Highlander 2: The Quickening, and the Renegade version, and the director's cut, and we'll do a huge compare contrast.
Yes,
and then we'll commit suicide afterwards.
Yes.
So
yes.
Look forward to that one, everyone.
Yes,
we'll commit harikiri.
Well, there we go. Oh man.
Until next time, my friends.
Thanks for listening to us and hanging out here with us
on the Neighborhood Watch.
Bye.
Adios.